Hello and welcome to episode 100 plus 7 of the Take a Poll podcast with Andy Cummins and Declan Carroll. We are covering Clonmel on a Friday evening, Friday the 6th of June, card at Clonmel. And it's probably only the most hardcore of hardcore listeners with us at this time of year, Dec, to be honest with you, because people have stuff to do, I suppose, people to see, beers to be drank outside. The flat and the summer jumps probably doesn't appeal as much as the winter festivals, which is fair enough, I suppose. But we're still doing what we love. How are things with yourself, Dec?
Yeah, grand. I thought Top 106 went well enough now.
It went well for anyone that listened. Probably did all right. We got a good few winner. I did the winner of the maiden hurdle, didn't we? We had you had the winner of the Mayor's Beginners.
Yeah, like if you got on the Manhart early, it nearly got you through the two cards.
Yeah, would have coasted you through the cards. We both fancied Royal Eagle. First bet on the Listowel card. Canesburg back at his trip at 2 miles. I know he did return odds on, but he was available odds against, which we said. So yeah, it was. And there was a Willie Mullins horse ridden by Sean O'Keefe in those Malcolm Denmark colours. Obviously, can't remember. Anyway, he won as well. Obviously, incredibly difficult to train because he wears those silks. As they all are. We'll see him. I can't wait to see him again in 2 years in the beginner's chase. That wasn't bad at all. And now
actually,
here we are.
The winner of the bumper at Jamar that I only realised hours after the race. Because I'd switched over to the Champions League. So,
jeez, that was one-sided, wasn't it?
It was,
yeah.
It was
great result for the sport, though.
It was a bit like the Presbyterian Cup.
It was actually. It was over relatively quickly. Right, Dec, we've got a 7-race card at Clonmel. We were going to touch on Ferryhouse as well, but you made a good point that Ferryhouse flat racing, as much as we love Peter Rowe and the good people at Ferryhouse, the flat racing there is not easy, to say the least. So
no, it's not. Yeah. And as I said to you, they have a group race. It's the only group race probably in the world that Aidan O'Brien hasn't won. Even he doesn't care too much for it. But then when it comes around to the winter, it's probably our most covered.
I wouldn't even say it's close, is it?
Yeah, I think
it's constantly. It's always on Saturday. So many, yeah. And
we do enjoy covering it. But,
thoroughly.
I've been to a flat meeting at Ferryhouse.
Why?
The year George was born, I used to bring him out there because I'd be coming from work, I'd grab him in his buggy. It'd be like, traffic was very different then to how it is now, but it was there in 15-20 minutes. So a couple of nice sunny evenings there.
Yeah. Okay.
Can't remember too much of the racing though.
Very good. Well, the only thing that kind of interested me on the Ferryhouse card is that Aidan O'Brien might have to put the Aussie allegations. He might have to start addressing them because he did have Stormboy, who he was training for the Arc, according to ourselves, in the Greenland Stakes a week or two ago. He now has Roosevelt in a 7 furlong handicap, the 5:20 race on Friday. After he won a 1.5 mile maiden last time out, bringing him back to 7 furlongs. So either the Aussies have bought into him and he's going down under after winning that maiden, or he is, and this is maybe a bit far-fetched, maybe tinfoil hats on, is he getting trained for pacemaking duties? I wonder. Will we see him, is he good enough to be a Group 1 pacemaker is the question. But we don't know, but I just thought it was a very strange entry. Jack Cleary taking off the 5, but look, we're not here to talk about what Aidan O'Brien's doing with pacemakers. We're here to talk about the Friday card at Clonmel as we record pretty late on a Wednesday evening. We'll start with the Bulmers Light Maiden Hurdle. Bulmers sponsored the first 3 races on the card. I'm not a Bulmers guy, Dec. Even if the sun is out, I'd probably be more a ginger beer type of person. You're partial to a bottle, aren't you? With some ice maybe on a summer.
Yeah, I'm partial to a large bottle. If it's quite sunny and I'm drinking outside, if it's sunny, I'm drinking outside, I'll have 1 or 16 of them. But if I'm severely hungover, I might reach for one as well. But Jesus, the old acid does be bad now.
It's not great. Remember the Leopard? Do they still at the live at Leopardstown evenings? Which I know there's a Leopardstown card on Thursday. We might get to that a little bit later. A couple of tips for you guys on that, if you're brave enough to listen to the end of the show. But do they still do the lemon and the pears and the dark fruit one? They used to have loads of flavors at the live at Leopardstown of the Bulmers.
I'm not sure, but did Bulmers ever go down that road?
They definitely did. The Bulmers lemon wasn't bad back in the day up at Leopardstown on Thursday. You can do lemon. Well, it's not necessarily.
There was a pear.
There was a pear and there was a dark fruits, but there was 100% a lemon. Drop your favorite Bulmers flavors in the comments. If anyone's sick enough to do that, I'd you would make my day. But right, we're gonna get straight onto it. The 5 o'clock at Clonmel, the Bulmers Light Maiden Hurdle.
I tried Bulmers Light actually, because I was hoping that the indigestion mightn't be as bad, but it's just as bad. There's a lot less calories in it, but it doesn't have the same flavour. Yeah, and the indigestion is just as bad.
Just as bad. So bad reviews on Bulmers Light from Dec is that's what you're taking away from this. If you're not getting the winner out of it, stay away from Bulmers Light. Just drink the proper thing. Right. So we've 18 runners, 3 reserves. Probably not the most enticing maiden you're ever going to see. Some interesting enough runners, I suppose, guided by you for Porrick Roach. The likely favourite is Tasserolo, I'd say, for Dennis Hogan. Ran okay last time out. Janovi Vascalini, Varencini. I was trying to pronounce that one before before we came on. I don't know where the mark of 105 really came from. Maybe that run behind Castle Heath, but maybe a little bit far-fetched. The one I came down on Dec was actually Synchronise, a gelded son of Frankel, out of a Debawi mare. I'd say whoever bred that one wasn't expecting it to turn up in a maiden. Yeah, wasn't expecting it to turn up in a maiden hurdle at Tremor, that's for sure anyway. But ran a lot better than the market expectations suggested on its last hurdling run at Killarney. Was beaten 9 lengths by Autumn Twist at odds of 200 to 1. A replication of that run would see him bang there for a small outfit. Might be a bit of each way value in this race, but who do you fancy, Dec?
It was Tasserolo that I came down on. He improved past Yosemite Gold to finish ahead in third on a second hurdle run. Now, slightly worried he was 0 from 7 on the flat, but then it was only 7 goals and maybe only 4 of them or 3 of them, actually trying to win one of them. So that was the one I came down on. The other one I was looking at was Power of Words. It's fourth and debut at Fairy House at Easter. Was it loaded? Some locked box or loaded?
Locked box.
Locked box, was it? And Tony Mullins had the horse who chased in France, led us. I think they were first and second home that day. He was quite disappointed in the bumper the next day, but maybe bumpering is just not his thing. And maybe if you can recreate that performance, you put a line to the bumper run, recreate that performance that he put in at Fairy House, he might be good enough to win this. But I just felt Tasserolo was the safer option.
Right, Casserolo for Dec. I'm going to, as I said, stick with Synchronise, who I think might be a little bit overpriced, given from where he's coming from. So that's the 5 o'clock over and done with. Next up is the Bulmers 0 handicap hurdle. Jeez, you'd just rather have a Sedona at that rate, wouldn't you?
Sedona,
do they still do Sedona? Is that still a thing? Do they still do Sedona?
Yeah, and it comes in a big green can.
Yeah, would you not just have a can of that instead of a Bulmer 0? Sure.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yeah.
Save a few quid as well. Save a few quid to punt on the race, I suppose. Anyway, the Bulmer 0 handicap hurdle, it's a not to 100. Ironically, 100 is still good. Yeah, 3 zeros in the name as well as the word, with not to 100. Anyway, I'm not here for comedy. Right, 16 runners. Something has to win this, is what I usually say when I'm kind of stuck. I just went with the form horse, One Bright Blue Rose, because she's very consistent and may not be. She's very consistent recently. I don't know what she's hiding from the handicapper. That's the only thing. The one that could be extremely unexposed in here is Shabuzi for Joseph O'Brien. Oakley Brown claiming a 5. But Dec, who would your fancy be here?
This is one of the very few handicap hurdles throughout the whole calendar year that I'll have almost zero interest in. I've had choose one. I ended up coming down on Mega Speculators. He is 7. Made his handicap debut here the last day. Didn't show much. Dropped £3 for that. I've gone back to the Tortoise maiden run where he showed he might have some ability. If suddenly he's on it now on Friday, he could certainly outrun what'll probably be quite big odds. Or it'll be interesting to watch the market anyway. But like it's hard to suggest he wasn't off the last day on handicap debut as well. You're just going to be hoping that he improves and that he did show something at Tortoise, and there's a bit of a spark there. But yeah, I'm really struggling with this one now.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Shabazy ended up a short enough price given his connections and given how bad the race is. But when the race is, when you're searching this much for something to go on, usually just go with the consistency, which in this case is one bright blue rose. But I think there's better bets on the card personally. But yeah, it's a race that I said the better probably.
Yeah, well, the tissues have those two as first and second favourite.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me. It's hard to make a case for really anything else. So you could maybe hedge on the top two, but if you're not inclined, but I think, as I said, I think there's much better opportunities on the card.
My yoke's not listed.
Right, just like Epsom on Friday, one of the Group 1s on their card is the third race, and the Bulmers original hurdle. Surely this is the race that they've been gearing up for. They've given the light to the maiden hurdle, they've given the 0 to the not 100. They gave the Bulmers original to this 2.5 mile conditions contest. Probably the most talented race on the card in terms of what we're dealing with. Jagoro in here off 11-12. You've got Chinks Aloy. Hard to really know what he kind of is at the minute. Haven't seen him very much in recent times, unseated on his last run. HMSC horse returns with first time blinkers. Priory Dancer was my idea of the winner. Again, Oakley Brown claiming 5. He's returning hurdling after a spell of chasing, which he won twice. He drops from graded company as well. And the Friday Man, who's a good summer hurdler as well, but does need to improve on recent efforts. Who do you like here, Dec?
Jinx of Light is a horse I thought an awful lot of when he was quite younger. He just never really hit those points. Like he did have a lot of potential. He beat Favori Deschamps in a Galway maiden and worked out quite well. Paddy's Planet was in that. He won a handicap at Nace. Fortunately, no longer with us. But Jinx of Light he's had plenty of jumping issues recently, particularly since he went chasing, and reverting to hurdles hasn't really done it for him. He's rated 129. He's getting £6 off. Gigaro was rated 136. Look, I'd love to see him bounce back and win it, but I don't see it. And I, like you, Andy, I think Prairie Dancer is the most likely winner. 7-year-old, rated 133. Been chasing. He was a winner of a fence off 128. He was a winner of a handicap hurdle off 132. You could argue he's well in here. Yeah, could this be nap at the top material?
It could well be, assuming he doesn't go down to the first and absolutely balloon it. But I don't think he's the type to do it. He's a pretty genuine horse. And
will he be on?
That's another thing. He's ran 25 days ago. So my idea was they're probably going to keep him ticking over throughout the summer and maybe try and win a chase and try and go for a Galway plate. Now, I wouldn't in a month of Sundays be backing him for a Galway plate. Far from it. But this is nowhere near the quality of the rivals that he's going to likely be coming up against at the Galway Festival when he probably does go back fencing. So
what about could he run in the Galway hurdle? Like he's on ratings, he's a better hurdler than a chaser.
It depends. I don't know. Like, this is 2.5 miles. I don't think you have to boot for a Galway hurdle. There is a 2 mile 6 hurdle around Galway, if I'm not mistaken. That might be up a street, assuming the ground is good. I think there is a decent enough handicap hurdle over an intermediate trip at Galway. That would be definitely you could in. That would be interesting. Now, as I said, is he doesn't want like very testing ground. We're not going to be getting that on Friday by the looks anyway at Clonmel. Yeah, I think this is a good opportunity for him. Jigoro likely to follow him home, but he just hits the crossbar too much for me. In the 11-12, I just don't think he'd be able to give Priory Dancer £6 here. So yeah, Priory Dancer for both of us. If he's odds against, which I'm assuming he probably will be, he probably is looking like nap of the top material.
Yeah, except if they want to tissues, Jigger.
Yeah, that'll do me. Yeah, lovely. Can't wait to summer party at work on Thursday. Can't wait to be tipping Priory Dancers to everyone. Get fired by Monday. Right, Bulmers original handicap hurdle. There's nothing original about that name. We just had the Bulmers original hurdle. Now we have the handicap hurdle. My personal bet on the card, though, I think is going to be in this race. I really fancy my gaffer, who is for John Ryan. Ran 11 days ago. I think beat Popova about 3 weeks ago, but in my opinion excelled at Killarney. Yeah. Now he did get to run the race, and Popova came from a long way off that day, and they should be a lot closer now. In the rating since my gaffer went up another £3 since finishing third to an easy winning Jesse Evans, but he's way better off at the weights with Feasted Aries based on that, and this is a big drop in class for him. He's very consistent. He's still doing very, very well at the moment. The 11 days doesn't bother me coming from John Ryan, because it's almost a worry if they haven't reappeared in less than 2 weeks. So I really fancy this. I think based on his run last time out and his win before that, I think he's thriving at the minute. I think he's going to be really, really hard to beat here. But who do you fancy here, Dec?
You know where I'm going.
You're probably going Popova to reverse the form, are you?
Yeah. Look, she'd been off for a long time. I thought it was a big, big run. And ground kind of is the key to her, but I thought they're kicking a lot up that night, if I can remember correctly. It was actually the day Rachel retired, because Rachel was down to ride her. I just thought it was a big, big run. She's up £3. If she is getting good ground, I would fancy her to reverse the form. And obviously she's owned by David Mann, who's a friend of the show. So look, I've loved her for a long time. Since before I knew Dave. I actually got to know Dave by talking about her on Twitter. So
he reached out, didn't he? Yeah.
Yeah. So I'd love to see her. I'd love to see her win it, but I do genuinely think she's a really, really good chance.
Yeah, I put myself in the fire line, because what's going to happen is Popova's going to go and win this now, and I'm going to get. And Dave would be well within his rights to hit me up on Twitter after that. But no, very best of luck in all seriousness. I think I have it between the two of them. I think my gaffer could be thriving at the moment. I like he just seems like a much, much better horse in his last 2 runs than he's really shown. And best maybe fair to say 2 years. He did kind of lose his way. He seems to be right back on it now.
I do feel though, if John Ryan horse was driving, they might run twice on the book card.
Yeah, he'd probably bring himself back into the parade ring, running the Bulmers original hurdle, and then tog straight back out for the Bulmers original handicap hurdle. But no, I do. I have it definitely between the two of them. I'm right in saying Popova she enjoys being held up, but not, maybe to the extent that she was at Killarney, and maybe that was due with her reappearance run. I do expect her to get closer, and I expect them to be fighting out to finish with one another. But I think my gaffer could be. I think it might just be a little bit too good. Still getting the £6 offer as well. So, interesting enough heat though. I think it's definitely the race I'm most interested in on the card by some considerable distance. Right, the Clonmel show Sunday, July the 6th, handicap hurdle deck again over 2.5 miles. Are you going to get yourself down to that? I wouldn't imagine so.
What is it? Clonmel?
The Clonmel show. I don't know what that exactly is. It's just the Clonmel show on Sunday, 6th of July. So if anyone's in the area, right. So 16 runners, and this is very difficult as well. Like it's again, I found this even harder than the second race, to be honest with you. We do see Gimme a Buzz, who won last time out, up and trip after kind of toughing it out. 5-year-old in the McManus colours for Enda Bolger. Is it that simple? Given his likely price, I don't know if I'd want to be jumping in, because he is probably going to be pretty warm order to go and win this. But who do you like?
I'm going to go back to a horse I fancied the last voice, and
Right.
he definitely wasn't off 2 runs ago. It's Lynchy Boy. He's been fourth his last 2 runs, but I think I might have actually fancied him his last 3 runs. He's been fourth the last 2 runs at Kilbegan. Possibly the first time he's been off in his life the last day. But I'd expect improvement now. When he ran in not sure how many handicaps. I think I backed him at Gowran one day. He was never put into the race, and I thought right next day, and that might have been Kilbegan the first time I wasn't put into it. And then it was the last day. Yeah, I'd say he was off, and maybe just maybe needs a run being off to finally go and do it. So I gotta take the chance on him again. One I keep my eye on making his handicap debut was Kerlow, his point winner. Extra Fountain House behind him, who we talked about a good bit during the season, possibly won at Clonmel, a Hunter Chase. He's just one to keep an eye on making his handicap debut. But yeah, Lynchy Boy, finally, to get me some in running back.
Yeah, I remember he tipped up late at Gowran, making kind of late headway, didn't he? Behind Battle of Ridgeway, who is in the anti-Tap Hall of Fame after winning that race. But yeah, he would have to have a chance, wouldn't he? Stepping up and trip as well. Looks like that's kind of what he wants at this stage now as well. Lynchy Boy. Tongue tie goes on first time. Yeah, be interesting to see how he goes. I think Gimme a Buzz, the most likely winner. It's not a race I'm going to be getting too heavily involved in. The 755 is next, the Botanica International Rated Novice Hurdle. Just a quartet here, I believe. Yeah, not the most enticing of races.
Too long a day now to put myself through this race, so I just skip it.
Fair enough, I don't blame you. I came down on Trosna and the Pairs for Trosna Naparka, probably, it's probably Irish, for Henry de Broadmead. Winner last time out, made all the running. It was around here as well. Did it quite nicely. I think he's probably going to try and do the same thing here. Mikey O'Connor's probably just going to keep it simple, try and make all the running. He should be able to make all the running, and probably is hard to beat. I would imagine he starts a pretty warm order to just go and win, to be honest. Dec, I doubt the Slanawalia flat race. What a brilliant now. We should have just covered that very, very last. I take it nothing for the...
I can down the Gordon Stead Bonnet. Or Stead Bonnet.
Probably a bit of La Francais there.
Yeah. 4-year-old was second on his debut. Yeah, I know Willie Mullins has 40k in here. I'm sure I've heard that in about 40k, have I? Feel like I have.
Right. I don't know. That's owned by the police, the Blue Blood. That's the police syndicate, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. The guard. No, look, don't know anything about 40k as yet to run, but Stead Bonnet, a 4-year-old, second to last day, a little bit of form to go on. So now I'm in red hot bumper form myself after the weekend. I'll go with Stead Bonnet.
Right, I'll let you be my guest on that one then, bud. Right, let's have a quick chat. There is a big race over it was so quick that I didn't even go to the Slanawalia flat race. Let's turn our attention to the other side of the Irish Sea, I suppose, for one of the main classics, or one of the main classic, the main race of the year on the flat, really, in on the calendar. And I just thought it might be nice to talk about the Derby, and we may as well talk about the Oaks while we're at it. But for me, this Derby is the most competitive and enticing Derby I can remember for a long, long time. You've got a 2,000 guineas winner stepping up in trip. You've got the Aidan O'Brien's Delacruz, who's won his 2 Leopardstown trials and is now stepping into the 1.5 Derby territory. You've got a very impressive Dante winner in there for Rave Becca. Even Aidan O'Brien's second and third strings. The line in winter was Antipost's favourite for Youngs. Now the rider Colin Kane, third string allegedly. You've got Lambourne in here, Chester Vals winner. It's a really, really top race. But before we get to it, Dec, we'll just speak real quickly about the Oaks. Only the 9 going to field, or going to post here for the Oaks. Definitely not as strong looking as the Derby, but still 9 very talented fillies. They're headed by the 1,000 guineas winner Desert Flower. Personally, I don't think she'll stay. Being by night a thundering out, a promising run. Promising Run was a serial group winner out in Dubai. Didn't go a yard beyond 10 furlongs. Not a lot in her family or in the family have gone beyond 10 furlongs, so I'd be worried about the extra 2. You've got the very impressive Musadora winner Whirl in here. You've got the Kingo and Giselle, who won the Linkfield Oaks trial. You've El Watan, fourth in the 1,000 guineas on only her second ever start, stepping all the way up now into up 4 furlongs in trip. I think it's a strong enough Oaks, not as good as the Derby, as I said, and you've obviously Mini Hawk, the choice of Ryan Moore. Dec, do you have any fancy for the Oaks?
Yeah, well, I haven't had too deep a look, but I do like Mini Hawk. Like, I know she was behind Joseph's filly. We might, what's it called? We might take
the long way.
Yeah, but I just feel only 3 runs on her belt. She's won twice after that. I say that's Frank in the form of Joseph's filly, but I would say Mini Hawk has improved. She's won at Jester, which Aidan uses Jester as, a stepping stone to Epsom. He obviously thinks if they can handle Jester, they'll handle Epsom. So yeah, like, it's without getting too deep into the race as of yet, she's the one I'm coming down at 48 hours out.
40, yeah. I'm coming down on the second string. I'm coming down on Whirl, who I thought was extremely impressive in the Musadora. She got her own way. She got to make all the running. Aidan O'Brien did cast stamina concerns about her. But for me, I thought the further she was going, the better she was going, and she went and won it by 5 lengths, a proper trial as well. That the Musadora was obviously won by Snowfall, I think, before she won the Oaks. The last Cheshire Oaks winner, I think it was Enable. Although Forever Together was beaten in the Cheshire Oaks and then won the Oaks for Aidan O'Brien. So it has been done before. I think they're 2 very viable runners against a favourite. I'm just not convinced Desert Flower will stay. I think she could be travelling better than anything. And, if Whirl kind of gets out on the front end, I think she could grind her into submission. She's definitely where I'll be going in the Oaks. On Saturday then, Dec, as I said, the Derby is, as I said, looks like even someone that isn't a big fan of flat racing can probably appreciate this race. We've got 19 runners. We're not really missing too many. We've even 2 in from France, Midak and New Ground. Brilliant to see them come over. And we've even Al Wasal Storm, who's by Affinity. So anyone that likes their National Hunt game, a very, very rare classic runner for the sire. Where are you going here, Dec? Like, you could, as I said, you could have 4 or 5 different people have opinions on this race, and you'd be hard to say that they're wrong. But who you like at the minute?
Well, I definitely taken on Delacroix. I was at Leopardstown the last day. I thought he looked very fast. I don't think he'll stay. I
by the Bowie as well.
Yeah, they don't stay with trade, do
they? Look, he's as good as a sire as he is. I think he's only ever won the Oaks once, and it was last year. Given the quality of mare that he gets and the amount of opportunities had to win it, it's not a good return on investment. I would be inclined to agree with you. I think Delacroix is probably for now a 10 furlong type.
Yeah, like, possibly an Eclipse horse. I I'm not sure if I'd have even come here with him, but look, I know it's what that operation do. I just thought he looked very fast at Leopardstown. Look, if he's that fast and he stays, what have we got on our hands? But I'd say at this moment in time, he's more speed than stamina, and I think he'll be outstayed. I actually think Lambourne is the most likely of the Ballydoyle horses. I think he has a right chance, but I like the Dante form, and I go with the winner, Pride of Aris, and I don't think the horse that was second to him, Damasus, will be too far away. But I do really like Pride of Aris, or of the home team. The best chance I'd give Lambourne. Oh, sorry, of our home team. I'd give Lambourne.
Yeah, I'm interested to see that the line in Winter. As I said, he was the anti-post favourite for such a long time, and now suddenly Colin Keane is in to take the ride. He's 4 lengths to find a Pride of Aris. He was beaten at 8-11 that day. He's now 6-1. Out in stall 19. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing with Epsom. It's a weird one. You usually don't want a very low number, I think.
You don't want one, but
yeah, 1 or 2. I know Adiar won from 1, or won the race from stall 1, but it's usually a death sentence, isn't it? Yeah, it's I found this race very difficult. I've been talked into Pride of Aris, because I know you're not the first person that said that they fancy him, and I can very much see where you're coming from. Again, he looked like a very fast horse. Like what I'm looking at with the Derby, and maybe it's just in 2025. It's not a lot of horses are bred specifically for 12 furlongs. Like you look at Delacruz, that's a 10 furlong pedigree. You look, and even though Tepin was a miler, but obviously he's by the Bowie. You look at Tornado Alert, who did look like he'd appreciate a step up in trip, but he's by Too Darn Hot out of a King Mambo mare. The line in Winter, possibly, I think most likely out of Aiden's, to stay the 12. I know Lambourne is by Australian, has won the Chester Vase. I'm just wondering how classy he is if he's been firmly put in his place by Delacruz, albeit over 10. Then you have Midak, Footsteps in the Sand horse, although Sindar mare. They've supplemented him, and I thought he was quite impressive with Saint-Cloud. He is the one that I've very tentatively came down on, pretty much because they have supplemented him, and I would imagine he did look like he was really powering away at the line. They skipped the Jockey Club for this, so I think he's the one. If I had to have a bet, I'm happy to sit here and watch this race as a fan. But if I had to have a little bet, I think at a double figure price, Midak, after being supplemented, is the one I'd go for. But as I said, I wouldn't put you off really anything. Like I'd even, if you want one that's going to stay, you have Alwasal Storm here rated 86 coming in here off a maiden, but at least, maybe the Jump Boys try and buy him, because he's if they think he's good enough to at least line up in a Derby, can he take a hurdle? With that pedigree, he absolutely no problem taking a hurdle. So you'll see someone requesting a Triumph hurdle price on him by the end of Saturday watch, guarantee you. Right then, Dec, have you anything else to add? I know we have Leopardstown. I've 1 or 2 for Leopardstown, but I'm just, before I get to them, is there anything else you want to touch on?
Yeah, well, I suppose my Derby anti-post bet is running that Leopardstown Great Impact stations at 555 over 9 furlongs. I'm very surprised he hasn't gone to Epsom, and I haven't. He must be doing absolutely nothing at home. But I was really keen on him. I didn't think the vibes were overly great on him heading to the Guineas. I thought they were better about Hot as Hell. And I thought by the time the Derby came around, he might be spot on. And I didn't think he ran overly bad at Newmarket. He was slow away, but I thought he travelled well for a long way. Probably got a bit unbalanced, and you mentioned the stable form earlier. I put it down to, and I'm just a little bit disappointed he's coming here, because I think he's dead. So, but look, I still think he's a class act. And he's a winner at Leopardstown over 7 furlongs. So maybe they're just going to bide their time with him a little bit. Maybe he's a little bit. It's hard to say he'd be a little bit weak because he's probably the best 2-year-old we've seen in Ireland, arguably
right up there, yeah,
with Britain and Ireland. So yeah, maybe they're just taking a different approach. They're going to take their time with him, but looks probably not a Bethany, but he's to give weight away, and I hope he wins. I hope he wins and puts himself back into that 10 furlong, 12 furlong picture. Of the top 3-year-olds. But look, there is a couple other. I didn't want to be rude, so I said I better pick a few, Andy. The 455 Apprentice Handicap Genesis, I thought it was a fine run back on turf the last day of 70. He's up £2, 72. Beat a lot of runs on the all-weather before that. This 7 furlong, probably a little bit easier than the Curragh, and I think he'll run the big race. And the listed race over 12 furlongs, Zoran, very, very impressive when he won his maiden. He was second on his debut, and that's not working out too bad. He's up in trip here. I think he's a good bet. And then I know you're going to give one, Andy, and I did mention to you before the show, 7:30, 9 furlong handicap, Kellini Bear. I think I mentioned him the last day. He was second in the maiden hurdle 2 starts ago, then second back on the flat and Ace. He's been dropped £3. We were both scratching our head about where that came from, but I like the 4 of them. Well, I like 3 of them. I'm more hoping Green Impact does the business.
Green Impact, he's a shade of odds on now, Green Impact, but if he's, I think a 3-year-old will win that. I'm a big fan of Curragh in that race with Green Impact as well. He's got into a habit of bumping into very good horses at 2. He's had a nice season so far at the age of 3. Be interesting to see how he progresses, but Green Impact well ahead on his 2-year-old form and wasn't disgraced in the 2,000 guineas. The pace held up. They didn't go overly quick. He wasn't that well positioned, stable form, all that. I can completely see it. A decent 2-year-old maiden at the top of the card. He'd probably have a quick watch of that. It's I would imagine the betting has gone very, very heavy on Minerva there at 4 to 6. Frankel out of prize exhibit. Very interesting. Definitely a very, very interesting runner. Cost over £1 million as a yearling. 1.5 I think he cost possibly. It'd be interesting to see how he shows up, because that's a very short price. And obviously the one down the bottom in that race, Then and Now, by Bowie out of Albinia. So you might remember her. She won the Migler for Jesse, was it? Or Marcel Boussac, wasn't it? The French Group 1 in the same colours. So interesting to see how that one goes. But the 2 that I very much like on the card are, again, is what Dec said, in that 7:30. It was, where's it gone on me? Instant Appeal, who was actually just behind Cleany Bear ahead the last day. Now the problem is he is in stall 18, so we were talking about him probably being drawn out in Foxrock Village. So if anybody is in the local cafe or flower shop, or you might have to step by Instant Appeal before he starts that 7:30. It's a very, very wide draw, but I think he could be a really well handicapped horse. Really strong form at 2, including a second to City of Troy in Deep 1 before winning easily on his next start at Gowran. Possibly didn't stay 10 furlongs at the start of this season. He missed his whole 3-year-old campaign, by the way. Came back at the age of 4. Was behind Independent Expert and Cleany Bear, but I think, again, with the stable form and all that, I think they're starting to kind of turn around now, and I would expect Instant Appeal, despite being in stall 18, to take a hell of a lot of beating there in the 7:30. I do quite fancy him. And then the other one I think was a just trying to double check now. I think it was a Gerard O'Leary horse. Was it Zipster? It's actually in the race before, the 6:55s, the Division 1. It was Zipster, who I just think was given too much to do the last day at Roscommon. I think he's ran okay in he's ran okay in all 3 starts this season. Possibly just run into a bit of form. Jared O'Leary's having a really good season as well. He's already had 7 winners this calendar year, on the flats or on the turf. So I think that horse has a nice chance in the Division 1 at 6.55. So they'd be my 2 at Leopardstown, on top of what we've tipped there at Clonmel. So is the Nap of the Tap Priory Dancer then, Dec, is it?
I think it may be.
Priory Dancer, and then my gaffer for John Ryan, who I'm taking on Popova. Sorry, David. So they'd be my main bets at Clonmel. Anything else then to add, Dec, as we wrap up here?
No. Yeah, difficult couple of days to cover, but hopefully we get a bit of a return.
That's summer jumps for you, and anyone that's listened to this far, we do very much appreciate it. Just keep liking, sharing, and subscribing. It's just as important as it would be in the summer to keep us alive at this stage. More important, absolutely. And yeah, just keep interacting with us. We're always here. Always happy to have a chat. But in the meantime, guys, that was Tap 107. Good night, and we will talk to you soon. Bye bye.
See you there.